So, my goal is to get 10 minutes candlelight with just 3 hazelnuts. Stay tuned if this sounds interesting for you. Hello YouTube! Welcome to another project video. If I have to improvise a candle with materials I just found here in the nature, my first thought is resin and birch bark. In this video I want to show you a way how to craft a candle without resin and birch bark. My idea is to craft a candle with hazelnuts. Hazelnuts are super easy to find here in my area, and hazelnuts contains over 60% fat. That's why they burn easy if you ignite them. Now I want to give you some tips and tricks that you are successful at the first try. So the first thing I have to do is looking for hazelnuts. It's almost the end of the year, pretty late, but I hope I find some. So I didn't find 1,000, but I have some nice nuts. Yoo-hoo! To ignite the hazelnut with the shell is a hard task. So it doesn't burn well and it needs a lot of time. That's why we peel them first. If you want to open a hazelnut with a stone because you don't have a nutcracker or pliers, the risk is high that you crash the hazelnut like this. And this is not what we want. The much more controlled way to open a nut is to open the nut with a Swiss Army knife. For that, cut away a little bit from the tippy side of the shell. This is the tippy side. This is the flat side. So go on the tippy side. Cut away a little bit until you can see a little gap. Can you see this little crack here? So now put the knife on this crack. Like this. And open gently the nut. So, and now you can take out the nut and you don't destroy the nut like this. I found out that such a nut burns much better if you don't have direct contact to a cold or wet surface. To prevent this, take out the needle, push the needle through the nut, and now I have a distance to the surface. Now I demonstrate you the difference. So the difference is this nut on the pin has the much better oxygen circulation, and this has not a good oxygen circulation, and the cold and maybe wet surface remove heat and energy from the nut. That's why this nut burns much better. As you could see, the flames are quite sensitive to wind. That's why I recommend to use a reflector or a wind protector. This can be a piece of bark, a glass, or a can or tin can. And keep in mind that the reflector increased the light output significantly. If you want to know how I cut this glass in bushcraft style, please check out this video. So, as you can see, on a Swiss Army knife needle is only place for 3 nuts. That's why I will make my tests with always 3 nuts. I'm sure you will find a good solution if you want to make a much bigger candle who burns longer. If this is done, you have different options to ignite the candle. If you ignite the nut on the bottom, you will have a well-burning candle with a big bright flame. But it will not burn for a long time because after a short time all nuts are burning. If you ignite the nut on the top, you have something like an upside down fire. And this flame will not be that bright, that big, but your candle will burn much longer. If you ignite the top nut, you have sometimes problem in the transition from nut to nut. And there is possible that you have to support with your light a little bit. If you want to ignite the top nut, you can also play a little bit with the angle, especially if your nuts are aligned on a needle like this. So, if you choose a negative angle, the chance is big that all nuts catch fire. If you choose a positive angle, the candle will burn longer, but you have again the problem with the transition from nut to nut. And if you choose a 90-degree angle, this is probably a good compromise. But the wind direction has also a big influence. So you have to try out which position works the best in your specific situation. So my friends, I'm freezing like crazy, and that's why I decided to go home. I will make the rest of the tests indoors because I don't want to catch a cold, especially in these crazy corona times. After you don't know is this corona or something else, and then you have to make these tests, and I don't want to make this. Now I'm back home for the timekeeping tests. On the first test, I ignite the bottom nut. You will see that the candle is burning very well. After a short time, all 3 nuts are burning. Most of the time, I have a 10 to 15 centimeter large bright flame. After about 4 minutes, the nuts will be burned out. In the second timekeeping, I would like to try that the nuts burn off one after the other and not all at the same time. To do this, I stick the needle horizontally into the wood and I just ignite the top nut. Exactly at this point, the flame spread successfully from the first nut to the second, but sadly it went out again. That's why I had to support the burning process with the lighter. Unfortunately, I wasn't careful enough. I didn't only ignite the second but also the third nut. Nevertheless, this candle burned almost for 8 minutes, so I didn't reach my aim from 10 minutes. But 8 minutes is also not so bad. And I'm sure there is still place to optimize the candle. As you could see, we doesn't reach the 10 minutes mark, but I found only small nuts. I can imagine that this is possible with bigger nuts. So this was the last video of this year. Thank you so much for your wonderful support. I make a little YouTube break now. I don't know exactly how long, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, but I guess we will see us next February again. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay healthy and see you next year. Ciao!